So we're going to start on our backs. You can have your blanket within arm's reach, just off to the side a little bit. And when you get on your backs, have your knees bent and your feet flat. Let your knees drop in, one on the other. Grab your blanket, and it should be relatively folded up. If not, give it another fold or two. And place it right over your abdomen. So the top of my folded blanket is resting on my low ribs, and the bottom of my folded blanket is right on the front hip points. So it covers my lower torso. Your hands can be wherever feels comfy, but one option is just to have the palms down on your belly. Make sure your head is cozy. If you need to take out your ponytail, go for it. And rock your chin a little side to side. And then find center and just become aware of your breath. The blanket should give you just a little bit of weight on your torso, a little bit of biofeedback about the rhythm of your breath, the steadiness of your breath. Watch the breath travel in and out through the nose. And stay here for another 5 to 10 breaths, just staying really steady. And slowly move your blanket off to the side. Either side is good. And wiggle some space between your feet. You can open up your eyes and let your knees drop all the way to the right and all the way to the left. Feet nice and wide apart. I've actually taken my feet to the very edges of the yoga mat. And all the way to the right. Press your left pelvis forward. And all the way to the left, press your right pelvis forward. Draw the knees back to center. Cup your hands over your knees. It's a nice natural fit. And start to draw some circles with your legs. So your arms are doing the action, not the legs. After about 5 in one direction, let's switch to the other direction, 5 or so. Counterclockwise or clockwise. Good, and then draw your knees, both of them into your chest. And there's a couple of different things you can do here that are pretty subtle. But if you start by keeping your thighs together and you put your arms around your knees and you squeeze them into your chest, you might start to feel your tailbone lift up. And as you feel your tailbone lift up, you'll get like this little gentle back stretch. And then you can also let your knees move apart from one another. So try the difference between the first and the second one. As the knees move apart from one another, draw the knees in towards your armpits or towards the side of your ribs. And see if you can keep your tailbone down. Now you're getting more of a stretch, so to speak, more mobility in the hips as opposed to the spine. And then set the soles of the feet towards the ceiling. You can either hook your hands behind the thighs or at your ankles or maybe at the outer edges of your feet. Knees are still towards the armpit for happy baby pose. And rock a little bit side to side. Stay steady in your breath, in and out through your nose. There's no need to breathe a certain way in my class so long as you feel that you can stay present with your breath. Eventually, please drift the soles of your feet together. Catch hold of your right ankle and your left ankle and draw the heels in towards your belly. Rock a little side to side. Gorgeous. Draw your knees back to center, just straight up towards your chest. And straighten your left leg out on your yoga mat. Let your left leg be heavy. Bring the right leg across your body. Slowly draw it across your body, towards your left elbow. And just come into a twist. Your right cheek will come up off the floor. Your right arm will open out to the side. You can look past your right fingertips. Spend a few breaths here, or if you're feeling like you're getting a little more into the back of the extended leg, you can straighten your top leg. Again, stay steady in your breath. Notice any thoughts popping up in your mind. Draw them back to this present moment. And we'll bring the knee back in. Right knee towards the chest. Left foot flat, straighten your right leg. Draw the left knee in towards the chest. Bring it all the way across your body. And you can have it hovering in space. Or some of you guys might be more comfortable with the knee rooting down onto something. You can slide your block underneath the leg if you'd like. And then option to stretch and straighten the top leg, your left leg now. Good, and please bend your knee. Come back to center. Draw both knees towards your chest. And just give a nice hug again, this time hands right behind the thighs. So you're gonna hug your knees in, rock a little side to side, and really pull your tailbone up off the floor. Take a deep breath. As you exhale, curl your nose and head off the floor. And if you wish, you can rock yourself up to a seated position, or you can simply roll to one side and press up to a seated position. So in seated, just get comfortable in a cross-legged seat. And we'll walk with the right hand out all the way towards the right, left arm up, and lean over. A gorgeous side stretch here. Let your head be heavy, face relaxed. Inhale up, and then walk your left hand out. You can be way off your yoga mat. That's totally fine. Right arm up and over. Try to stay rooted through your right sitting bone now, so right cheek. And inhale up. I'm going to reach the left arm up. Get really, really tall. It can sometimes be helpful also to sit on the blanket. And from here, bring the left arm to the outside of the right knee. And just look over your back shoulder. Couple breaths. Please bring it back to center. Right arm beams towards the sky. Take the right hand to the outside of the left leg and turn and look over your back shoulder. So I've actually used the back of my hand here to give myself a bit of leverage, but you could use whatever you got, whatever you can hold on to. You can even put your hand to the floor in front of you if the leg feels far away. Unwind back to center. Let's come on to hands and knees. So just get cozy, spread your fingers wide. Use your blanket as much as you wish under your knees. And make sure your shoulders are right over your wrists, hips right over the knees. Rock a little side to side. Drop your belly down, pull the heart forward. Exhale, round it up towards the spine. Start to move back and forth, belly down, pull the heart forward. And exhale and down. Moving back and forth at the rate of your own breath. So your inhale, your exhale. If you don't mind, keep your elbows nice and straight. And two more, just like this. Belly down, heart forward. Exhale, round up. Good. And keep your hands really solid in the floor. Just reach your right leg back. See how I've tucked my toes under? You're gonna press the heel back. Just press the heel back. Stretching out from the calf. And then lift your foot, but don't bring it back to center. Take it opposite. So off the left side of your yoga mat. Toes on the floor again. Legs straight, push back. You can wiggle, you can find a nice line of stretch that feels good to you. Please come back to center. Knee down, left leg straightens behind you. Press back through the left heel. Couple of full breaths here. Getting the energy from my arms, right? I'm kind of leaning back, pushing the yoga mat away in front of me a little bit. And then from neutral, left leg off the right side of the mat. Press back. As you do this, just be aware of where your torso is in space. You want to keep a gentle lift under your abdomen. And then come back to center. Set your knees close together on your blanket or on your mat, tops of the feet to the floor, and just rest back into child's pose. This first variation of child's pose with your knees together will give you a little bit more stretch to your low back. You can get more comfortable in child's pose with a few simple practices. One, you can grab your block and put it right under your forehead. Two, you can go more low key and just stack fists, or rest your palms down and stack your hands so the forehead rests in the back of the hands. And then we're going to play with another really simple variation of child's pose as well. So come forward again. Let your knees go nice and wide apart, like wider than your hips, wider than your torso. Toes are touching. And this time as you rock back towards child's pose, you might notice you get a little closer to the floor. You might notice that your back feels less of a stretch, but maybe your glutes or your hips feel a little more at their end range. So a couple breaths here. And then reach your arms out in front of you. Shift forward to table. Draw your knees back towards the regular hip distance apart. Curl your toes under and back and spread them nice and wide so that you're taking up a lot of space on your yoga mat with your toes, as much as you possibly can. Walk your hands just one palm's distance forward or one hand's distance forward. You end up in a long table. And then rise your hips to downward facing dog. Inside of down dog, there's this great energy through the arms, through the fingers, and it's reaching up and back through the hips, Inner thighs are rolling back, toes are engaged, quads are engaged. If you lift your toes up off the floor, it can help to get your heels a little bit closer. One more breath in, down dog. And then please lower right back to your knees and bring your thighs all the way to touch one another. Please reach your right leg up behind you. Take it across again. And this time tuck your knee behind your left. So you're gonna have your right knee tucked behind your left. You're gonna wiggle your feet wide away from one another on your mat. So your left foot's all the way towards the right side of your yoga mat. And your right foot's towards the left side, or maybe even off the left side of your mat. See that? That. And then press back with your hips. Usually, what will happen is you get a really good spot in kind of a halfway down position, like the one I'm in right now. So you can feel a nice end range action here. Move a little side to side. And then inhale back to center. Release your right leg, float it up, find center and get really stable. Draw up through the core, reach through your left arm. Opposite arm, right leg, left arm. Beautiful, lower your hands, lower your knee, shake it out a little bit. And then thighs to touch. The right knee is going to stay where it is. Left leg floats up behind you. Create a gentle tone in the core and reach that left foot all the way off so it kind of hovers over the right edge of the mat. Good, tuck your knee behind. Widen the space between your feet. And then sit back and just notice if one side is different from the other. By the way, it's totally okay if your top knee comes off the floor. It doesn't have to stay on. Full breath here. On your inhale, look forward, uncross your legs, curl all of your toes under, and this is a little tricky way to get our blanket out from under us. So with the toes curled under, optional block between your feet, you're gonna sit back to Malasana. It's actually a little behind the feet rather than between the feet. And then, I recommend if you have the blocks, we'll all start with the blocks. You're gonna put the blocks under your hands. We'll walk it out to downward facing dog with the hands on the blocks and the blocks in the middle position. Look back and gaze towards your feet. So heels of the hands are on the blocks right now. I'm gonna draw the right leg over the left leg, kind of high up the thigh. And then I'm gonna draw the left leg over the right leg, kind of high up the thigh. This is like tango dancing. And slowly walk your way to the front of your yoga mat. This might feel really nice in the back of your legs. The blocks should give you just a little bit more space for anyone who has any kind of tightness in the back of your legs, which is sometimes a good thing. We're walking all the way to the front of the mat. So aim to get there within the next couple of breaths. And then once you arrive at the front of the mat, blocks can be out of the way. Have a little bend in your knees. And just shake your head left and right. Shift a little right and left with your weight. From center, inhale, halfway up. Fingers rest usually on your shins. Create a little squeeze between your shoulder blades. Press your chest across the room. And then exhale, bend your knees and shake it out again. Inhale, halfway up. And then widen the space between your feet so your feet are a lot closer to the edges of the yoga mat. You can bring your hands to your knees. Set your hips back and come into happy baby pose in standing. So you're just gonna drape your head, shake your hips a little side to side. My torso is kind of fitting a bit in between the thighs. Hips are low. And then fingertips to the floor or to your blocks. Wiggle your feet back to hip distance. Inhale, halfway up, fingers rest on your shins. Exhale, please step your left leg to the back for a basic lunge. And again, have your blocks there if you wish. You can slide your blanket underneath your back knee if you wish, lowering down your back knee. We're gonna walk the hands to the top of the front knee. Draw through the pelvis, lift the chest. And inhale, arms up. Please catch hold of your left wrist. Lean to your right. And keep all of that length. Press your palms together over your heart and bring your left elbow to the outside, so the left elbow to the outside of your right leg, opposite elbow. Press your pelvis down. If you want a little more steadiness and grounding, look to the floor. If you feel pretty good here, stack your right shoulder over the left. Look up over the right shoulder towards the ceiling. As you exhale, grab hold of your blocks. Straighten this leg, your front leg. I wiggled my foot out a little bit so I could get a bit more spaciousness. And then walk your blocks all the way off the right side of your mat. Little bit of a wiggle side to side. Really straighten your leg. You can also wiggle back and forth with your front foot. Call it the beauty queen waves. Straighten the knee as much as you can. And then bring your hands back to center. Sole of the foot to the floor. Blocks to the floor. Root your hands, curl your back toes under, and come on back to downward facing dog. And again, shift the hips a little right and left. We're gonna walk to the front of the mat in a different way this time. Turn your toes inward like your feet are making a V shape. The opening of the V is behind you and the point is at your toes. And try to keep that as you walk forward. Knees as straight as possible. Your blocks are your friends again if the backs of your legs are feeling cranky or tight. And we'll make it all the way to the front of the yoga mat. So, from the front of your mat, inhale halfway up. Exhale, please set your right leg to the very back. Enjoy your lunge, optional hands on blocks. And lower your back knee down. This is where the blanket really does come in handy for a little added cushion. Please rise up. Catch hold of your right wrist. Pull your ribs back and lean to your left. So you're gonna lean towards the prop wall. So inside of these side bends, sometimes we tend to take a back bend as well. I recommend pulling your ribs back as much as possible and seeing where that takes you. Usually you'll feel it more in the front of the hip. That would be your iliopsoas. And keep all of this length, press your palms together over your heart. Right elbow to the outside of your left leg. So if you look up here for a moment, sometimes when we twist, we end up hanging a little bit in a twist. This is like, I'm just chilling here. It's like, hey girl, position. And instead, what I recommend doing is actually kind of pushing down, using your core a little bit, and definitely using that bottom arm to try and create some space. Like I'm trying to create a tunnel between my ribs, my belly, and the thigh. And at the same time, I'm aiming the center of my sternum towards the thumbs. The pelvis forward, left shoulder back, gazes to the floor or towards the ceiling, whatever feels most appropriate. Kind of shake out your head a little bit. And then let's bring the hands down to the blocks. Straighten out your front leg. Notice how I'm wiggling mine forward first. And then once the leg is straight, walk your blocks off the left side of your mat. You're gonna have your toes turning in and out. I always marvel at the differences between one side and the next. And sometimes after I go to a yoga class, I'll write down what I know that I need to work on. Like maybe it's my left outer thigh right now. And then I'll write that down and I'll use that, like little index cards or little notes on my phone to come up with a home routine that I can do just 5 minutes before bed or first thing in the morning to inform what I do on the mat that day. And from here, please walk your hands back towards either side of your front foot. Bend into your front knee, foot flat. Again, keep the blocks here unless you know you're quite open in the backs of your legs. We're going to sit back down in facing dog. This time as we walk forward to the front of the mat, we're going to exaggerate the first tango walk that we did. So make sure your hips are nice and high to the sky, your legs can be straightened down, dog. Cross your left thigh over the right, but set your left foot all the way to the edge of the yoga mat, the opposite edge of the yoga mat, right edge of the yoga mat. Then cross your right thigh over your left and try to cross it back. So this feels actually quite nice in the hips, but I'm using my arms a ton. And then left thigh over towards the right, big space between the feet. And right thigh over towards the left. Take it forward, just notice anything that shows up for you. And at the front, 20% of your mat. Feet are simply hip distance. Unravel, bend your knees, shake out your head. Nod it up and down. And then hands to your knees. Slowly roll up to a standing position. We're going to do a couple of sweet outer hip openers in standing. So you'll take your left thigh over your right. And bend. Notice how I put a lot of space between my feet, right? I'm not trying to be delicate and not occupy a lot of space. Lots of space between the feet. Bend your front knee. And then grab hold of your right wrist and reach up and lean over towards your left. So you can really push your hips to the right. You can pull your arms to your left. Let your head get heavy. Take a couple breaths here again, noticing if in this side bend you tend to back bend a lot, your belly goes out. Draw the ribs in so you can feel it at the hip. And inhale, rise. Keep your legs as they are, as tricky as it is. Palms over your heart. And walk your hands down your front legs. I drifted away from my blocks, but if you are close to your blocks and you want to put your hands on them, go for it. And then walk your hands right back up the legs. Bring the hands to your hips, rise up. And we'll take this pose, which is called Krishna's Crescent, on the other side. So unravel your legs. Right leg steps up and over, big old space between your legs. No need to be delicate here. And then this front knee is going to bend. Catch hold of your left wrist. Sweep it by your left ear and lean over. Ribs back. Front hip points up. Soft expression on the face. Just notice what happens when you access a line of the body that we don't access very often, even on the mat. Pull the ribs back more. Rise. Press your palms together and adjust your feet a little bit so that you can start to fold forward. Maybe take your hands to your shins, to the block or blocks, or to the floor. So I mentioned breath before, just become aware of your breath. Inhale your exhale. You can bend your front knee as much as you wish here, by the way. And then start to walk your hands right back up the legs and rise up. All right. These actions to get to the outer hips are some of the most tricky, I think, on the yoga mat, involving lots of balance, involving lots of weird shapes that we don't always get into or often get into. So I call it flossing. We're flossing the parts of the body that we don't get into very much, including on the yoga mat. So you're gonna keep your left foot forward, or set your left foot forward rather. And just bring your hands to your left knee. Slowly lower your right knee straight down. Not so much in a deep lunge, like a back bending lunge, but what I would call like kind of the proposal position, yeah? So from here, right arm reaches to the sky, and just bring the right elbow to the outside of the left knee again. Press your palms together over your heart. Stack your left shoulder over the right. And then right hands to the block on the inside of your front foot. Straighten this leg out, right hand to the block, and keep your left shoulder stacked over. Exactly. So one thing you might notice is that my heel is on the floor now rather than the sole of my foot. Otherwise it would be a little bit tricky to keep the knee straight. Curl the toes back, stack left shoulder over right, and to get steadier here, I should draw my block back so it's right under the right shoulder. Awesome. Look to the floor. Wiggle your foot back in. Make your shin vertical again, back thigh vertical, front shin vertical. You can have your left hand on the left knee. Just lift your back knee up. Step your foot in a little bit. Stack your block to the tallest position. And then left hand to your left hip, slowly straighten your front leg. Pull the hip back. Try to drag space in through this leg, in through this left side waist. Stack your left shoulder over the right again. You can stay here, or you can open your left arm to the sky. So this is called revolve triangle. It's actually a pretty complex and I would say advanced pose. It's a nice complement to everything that we've done in the practice so far. Please bring your left hand back to your hip. Grab hold of both of your blocks. Set your blocks shoulder distance apart. Wiggle your left foot a little over to the right side of your yoga mat. And you're gonna tuck your right knee behind the left and just do a little bit of a curtsy fold. Shake out your head. And we'll do the same thing over on the other side. So I'll turn around so I have my face to you guys. We're gonna send the left foot back and bring the hands to the front knee as you need. Lower your knee down, find the proposal position. Left arm to the sky. Elbow to the outside. So now instead of being elongated in the spine, you're gonna be a little bit more C-shaped in the spine. Palms press over the heart. Give a nice spin. Push your elbow down so you can stack your right shoulder. Just kick your left hand to the block, to the inside of your front leg, and wiggle your right leg out. Curl your toes back as you straighten your leg, and push down through the block, right hand to the right hip. Draw your right shoulder back. This is what I would call the fallen version of revolved triangle, because you're on your back knee rather than having the leg straight. So it's almost the same thing, except you're on your knee. Go ahead and bend through your front leg, so your shin is vertical, back thigh is vertical. Go ahead and take your block to the tall position here. Just so you guys know, I have about like 8 inches or so in between my block and my front foot. Back knee lifts. Step in a little so your heel can turn down to the floor. And make sure your front arm is vertical. Right hand to the right hip. Stack. Turn. And then if you feel comfortable, reach your right arm to the sky. What I would do first before reaching the arm is just really pull back with the right shoulder. Really pull back at the shoulder blade, rooted. You can, even if you need a little more space for your hips here, come onto your fingertips, so long as you've got your balance good. And that will give you a bit more space. One more breath. I know, this one gets to those spots. Exhale, hands to the block. You can have both blocks in front of you. Right foot's going to step over the left side of the mat. Left knee is going to tuck under like a curtsy. So I just stepped the back foot forward and I'm just smushing my knees together. This is one of the weirdest squats in the whole history of the world. But let your head hang heavy and it feels kind of nice on the outer back hips. Shake your head left and right. Nod it up and down. And then release or unravel your legs. Toes out, heels a little wider than hip distance. Drop down through Malasana, your deep yogi squat if you can deal with it. Set your blocks to the side for a moment. Hands behind you. Hips to the earth. Soles of the feet together. And lower yourself down onto your back. You're going to be right here for about 5 breaths. Next inhale, you can use your arms if you'd like. Draw your knees towards one another. And draw your knees in towards your chest. And just pull your thighs in, thighs together. Notice if your tailbone floats up off the floor. Cross your right thigh over your left thigh. And it's thigh over thigh, just like if you're sitting really delicately in a chair. Hook your hands either on the front of your top knee or your bottom knee if it's within reach. And draw the knees towards one another or towards your chest. If you wish, you can also walk your hands down towards the shins and pull your shins apart from one another really gently. This pose is known as Gomukhasana or cow face pose, and you're on your back. Supta Gomukhasana. And we'll release. Set the feet flat to the floor, feet nice and wide, just like in the beginning of class, feet straddling the edges of the yoga mat. Let the knees drop right and left. If your block's in the way, get it out of the way. You want to enjoy the windshield wiping of your knees. And when you come back to center, wiggle your feet back in. Draw your knees in. Cross your left thigh over the right. Hook either the top knee, both knees, or walk your hands down the shins towards the ankle, pulling them away from one another, like this. And then release. Draw your knees into your chest. Give yourself a big hug. Find one happy, final happy baby. If you'd like, you can use your blanket rolled up under your thighs for a little support. Or you can even place your blanket over your body. Just stretch out and find Shavasana. Next inhale. And your exhale. Imagine the fresh oxygen as it travels to your fingers and to your toes. Slowly starting to wiggle. Wake up. Stretch long through your limbs. Please draw your knees one at a time towards your chest. Give yourself a great hug. Rock a little side to side. Rock and land onto the right side. Gently press up with your top hand.
way towards seated. Let's take a deep breath in. Big sigh out. Close this practice with the sound of Om. So simple, soft Om from the belly. Please join me. Press your palms together over your heart. Drop your chin softly towards your chest, thanking yourself for showing up, recognizing your own innate goodness, committing to seeing that goodness in all other living beings. It's a pleasure to be with you.